Who here calls himself a storyteller? I should see everybody's hands, because storytelling is just a part of human nature. We all tell stories in our everyday lives, whether we realize it or not. The clothing we wear, our body language, just the way that we talk tells a story about who we are as people. And I am learning a story about all of you today for choosing to be here with me at 1:18 p.m. in maybe Ballroom C to support me. Theo, thank you. So who is talking to you right now? Well, my name is Theo. Formally, I'll say my name is Theo. I am a sound designer / stage manager / director / actor occasionally. And informally, I will say my name is Theo. My favorite movie is Clue. I have 3 cats, Sabi, Cloud, and Brandon, and I love blue. You see how my story changed from being in a formal versus informal setting. So what this presentation is about today, I am going to give us all an introduction into dramatic storytelling. I understand that we all come from different backgrounds, so I want us to have a shared pool of knowledge for today. And then I'm going to give a brief story time, and then I'm going to dive into theory. And then we're going to talk about my own experiences with theater within this semester specifically. What makes a modern storyteller? Well, storytelling at its core is about creating a connection between storytellers and an audience. Language, images, gestures, signals and signs, sounds, they all evoke emotion. They provoke thought and communicate themes and lessons. Stories tap into our deeply ingrained human experiences. Stories transcend time and place. And it all goes back to Aristotle. Aristotle defines humanity as our ability to rationalize and have the skills to engage in rational activities such as theoretical reflection, practical deliberation, and emotional refinement. We also have the poetics, which is a huge form of storytelling that goes into how effective plot and characters and time affect how a story is analyzed and digested by an audience. So we can go. So why am I qualified to talk to you about this? I am Theo. I started off my career as a dancer, and then an actor, and now I do tech. I, as a kid, loved books, and one story that I loved particularly was Junie B. Jones. Her last name was Jones, my last name was Jones, match made in heaven. I loved those books, and throughout my life, I was able to find solace in books. And as I got older and I left my love for literature behind and dove really deeply into theater, I had a full circle moment my senior year where I got to direct none other but Junie B. Jones Jr., the musical, for my high school. That was one of those moments where it's like, I made the right choices because this sign, I'm meant to be here. I've been doing theater for 9 years, in Austin for 3. I have been a part of almost every production at Mary Moody Northern Theater since I've been here, with the exception of the very first and very last of my time here. And somehow, I ended up in the pool of stage managers for Austin Playhouse, where I am currently employed working on Dirty Rotten Scoundrels as an assistant stage manager. So, let's dive into some philosophy. We are going to talk about semiotics, narrative theory, and endless deferral specifically. Bingo. Endless deferral is the theory that sparked this presentation. It is an idea that there is a never-ending chain of interpretation. This falls under the category of post-structuralism. It's a way of thinking that emphasizes radical uncertainty of knowledge. Everything has its own interpretation, and all of our interpretations are fueled by the context of our own lives. We will not accept the same knowledge in the same way. This also says that there is nothing as as absolute interpretation. There is no such thing as something that is true when it comes to interpretation, because all interpretations are in turn subject to interpretation. And deference. This is an intentional misspelling by Jacques Derrida, who is a French philosopher. It is an idea that meaning is produced by difference, yet meaning is also affected by that. No, meaning is often deferred. Next up, we have semiotics, which is a study of signs and how meaning is made. This is a theory that I learned specifically in a communication course. It implies that meaning can never be fixed and relies heavily on the context. This is an example of signs that we use, like our hand gestures, like peace signs and thumbs ups are things that we use commonly in America, but in other countries, they may have different interpretations. And then we go into narrative theory, which is how plot, characters, theme, time, setting, and shape affect how we perceive things. Once again, as I mentioned before, Aristotle's Poetics fall under this category. And now we can get into my musicals. I have had the pleasure to stage manage Nonsense the Mega Musical and assistant stage manage Dirty Rotten Scoundrels at Austin Playhouse. I have learned so much in this experience. And this is a photo from Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I have not been commenting on the photos so far, but every photo has been a production photo from either Nonsense or Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. We can go forward. First up, we have Nonsense. To understand why these shows are important, we have to understand that theater evokes raw, immediate emotional reactions. The connection between storytellers on stage and the audience is what fuels theater and makes it such an impactful art form. Nonsense is a show that arguably does not have the strongest plot. Nonsense is all about the characters and the journeys they go through, even without that change. It is also a very dated script. So we've had to go through quite a few updates and adaptations to make this show accessible for an audience at Mary Moody Northern Theater. One of the biggest adaptations that was made was the Habit humor monologue that is at the top of Act 2. The actor read the script and was like, Patrick, who was our director, this isn't funny. And so, with the help of Patrick, our director, Rachel, the actor performing the monologue, and our music director, Habit humor transcended what was originally there. It now became a jam-packed part of pop culture, with references to Britney Spears and Chappell Roan that was not in the original script, and made Act 2 just start off with a much bigger bang than if we would have stayed with the original text. That is something that very heavily impacted other designs. It affected my calls as a stage manager. It affected how the music direction was done, because we were now pulling from pop culture instead of just what was in the script. And it also affected a little bit of choreography and costumes. Because of the way that she was messing with her habit, we had to make sure that it was available for her to do that. Such a small change affects so many people. There are also a lot of design limitations with the show. With it being set in a school auditorium, there isn't a lot of space for creative freedoms in scenic design or lighting. They're in habits, which is a very traditional costume, a very traditional outfit that you really cannot mess with and alter without being offensive. So how do we make these characters come to life in a setting where they shouldn't be able to? Sister Julia's apron comes to mind. That piece that goes over her shows who she is immediately. She's a cook. In this show, I am the stage manager. I called the show, I ran production meetings, and I monitored rehearsals. I also facilitated with conversations between actors, designers, directors, everyone involved. And I was there for the full experience, which is different than my next show, which is, continue, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. This show is currently running, and it is a spectacular show. There are 20 scene changes. There are a lot of costume changes, huge dance numbers, and just the confines of the rehearsal space that we are in created its own challenges that created a very different experience for me as an assistant stage manager. Instead of facilitating everything, I was assisting. I am backstage and I am helping with costume changes and microphones to make sure everything works well. But I also got to watch. I got to watch how things changed. I got to watch how we were solving problems. One of the biggest issues with this show was how fast-paced it was and how quickly the scene transitions had to happen and how much the ensemble actors stuck out in scene changes. We added new costumes. We added small pieces to make them a part of the scene instead of something outside of the scene. Austin Playhouse also does a great job of giving autonomy to performers. Instead of saying exactly what to do, there's a start point and an end point, and you find your own way to get there. And this allows for more authentic and genuine interaction and a piece that all of us were proud of. What makes theater so impactful? Well, it's collaboration. It's not just actors and directors. Theater starts with an idea, and then oftentimes a script that gets in the hands of a director who works with designers and actors, sometimes dramaturgs and choreographers and music directors, to create a theatrical piece. It affects everyone who is in the process altogether. And now for a Lin-Manuel Miranda quote, because everything goes back to Hamilton. Theater is a mean to tell stories. History is subjective. The teller of it determines it. On the Hamilton example, the story of Alexander Hamilton's life was essentially lost to history until the musical Hamilton came up. With the influence of rap and hip hop, with heavy dance and spectacular lighting and costumes, these historical figures became characters that people could empathize with. It introduced a story that was lost to time back into a modern audience. And it evoked that raw, immediate reaction I was talking about earlier. If it was just Lin-Manuel Miranda, that show would not have worked. If it was one person making all the decisions, the show wouldn't have worked. And that is true for all theatrical pieces. And if you want to discuss further, my name is Theo. My Instagram is Theo_thinks. And you can email me there. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Well, I just want, Theo has been a part of our theater program for 3 years, sadly. He's graduating a year early, which is really sad for us, but he has deserved it. And he's been such an integral part of our program, so I'm going to be sad to see you leave. Also, I don't know what I'm doing with this. And it's been a pleasure to work with you on this project. And what he has seen, you don't have a taste of what he has seen and experienced in his time as a stage manager in our department and talking about making collaborative stories happen well. If you enjoyed Nonsense, he's a major reason you enjoyed Nonsense. Just FYI. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
You may clap. Still extended.
so we do have time for questions for, what was your favorite show to work on?
Murder on the Links at Austin Playhouse, because it is a comedy that very heavily relied on fast character changes. Yeah, I love that show.
So how do you think these ideas apply to life in general? Yeah, how does it reflect back into your daily life?
It reflects back into daily life. I am someone who is very conscious of my word choice and how what I am saying comes across, and how like my tone and body language affects how other people are interpreting what I'm saying. Because I understand that my interpretation of what I am doing is not always what other people are going to understand from me. And being conscious of other people and other people's experiences, and being delicate with how I deliver information is something that I have learned a lot that is because of theater, I would say.
Yeah, it seems so. Okay, that's great.
How would you say your experience working with the different directors that you have over the last 3 years, has that affected the way that you work as a stage manager or as or whatever role you're playing in that particular production, and how, and part B, like how you've seen different directors interpret storytelling?
It has been very beneficial to work with different directors, and it has really aided in my education in theater, because every director I have worked with has quite different approaches to directing. Even just at Mary Moody Northern Theater, every director has handled conflict and stress differently. And how they manage a rehearsal room is one of the biggest things that comes to mind, because there are some directors who are very in tune with how their actors are feeling and try to get all the actors unified in like a shared space before rehearsals start. So, and promotes ideas, while other directors go into a show knowing exactly who is moving when, who is moving what, and not with that same freedom to actors. And how those stories come across and how that changes very heavily goes back to the director's personality and their approach to how they're directing. Did that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.